Welcome to the Deep Dive. This time we're diving into something that's been getting a lot of buzz, the technological singularity. You've sent us a really interesting mix of stuff, article research, even personal notes. And it seems like you're not just into the tech itself, but what it means for society, for masculinity, even for spirituality.
What's really striking about what you've shared is how you're connecting all these different ideas. I mean, we're not just talking about faster computers or smarter robots, right? This is about a potential transformation of, well, human existence itself.
Okay, so let's unpack that.
Yeah.
You highlighted Moore's Law a bunch in your notes. I feel like everyone knows it's about computers getting faster, but you're getting at something deeper, aren't you? It's like a metaphor for that exponential growth we're seeing everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. The sources you've sent connect that kind of thinking to these huge shifts we're already seeing, you know? Like the rise of these tech giants, the anxieties about jobs disappearing, even the way global power is shifting. It's all tied to this accelerating pace of change.
So it's not just about me getting a new phone every year, right? It's like a fundamental shift in the way the whole world works. And you even connected this to feeling red pill, like from the movie The Matrix. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, it seems like you're questioning those dominant narratives about technology and progress. Like maybe those traditional institutions and the way we think aren't keeping up with how fast things are changing. Almost like you're seeing the world with fresh eyes, you know?
Yeah.
Peeling back the layers to see what's really going on.
So let's get into the specifics. You flagged some examples where technology is moving at, like mind-blowing speed. What are some things that made you go, whoa, the future is actually here now?
Okay, well, you pointed to AI, like that AlphaGo program that beat a world champion Go player. That's a big deal because Go was always seen as too complex for machines, right? It needed intuition, strategic thinking, things we thought were like uniquely human. And then you've got quantum computing advancing so quickly, and biotechnology, which is blurring the lines between humans and machines. The speed of all this is just unlike anything we've ever seen.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
You're thinking about how this will impact society, especially when it comes to the economy and what happens to jobs in the future.
Right. Your sources talk about jobs disappearing because of automation, and not just those blue-collar jobs, but white-collar ones too. This could lead to some major economic upheaval as whole industries get disrupted. And you also pointed out this potential digital divide. You know, those who can access these advancements versus those who can't.
In your notes, you're asking,
Yeah.
how do those traditional masculine values, strength, resilience, adaptability, fit into this whole picture?
It's really fascinating how you connected this to masculinity. The sources you sent suggest that in a world where everything's changing so rapidly, the people who can adapt, think critically, and solve problems are going to have a big advantage. It's about taking those classic masculine virtues and applying them to this whole new landscape.
It's almost like you're saying, okay, the world's going a little crazy, but I'm going to be ready. You've got this proactive kind of red-pilled way of looking at the future.
Exactly. And it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. The sources suggest that men who really harness those qualities can not only navigate the challenge, but actually seize the opportunities that this new world is going to present.
But it's not all about being practical and surviving, is it? You're also interested in how the singularity might change our search for meaning and purpose, even spirituality.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thread that runs through everything you've shared, you're asking. In a world of superintelligent machines, what does it even mean to be human? What is our purpose? The sources explore how technology could actually enhance our spiritual practices, like giving us access to information and tools for self-discovery.
But you seem a little wary of technology, like replacing actual self-reflection and our connection to something bigger than ourselves.
That's a really important point. The sources emphasize mindfulness, self-awareness, and a rational approach to spirituality. It's about using technology as a tool to enhance our journey, not to replace the journey itself.
This leads us to transhumanism, this idea of using technology to enhance our own ability. And you have a ton of notes about this. What's grabbing your attention here?
Well, you seem both fascinated and a little apprehensive about this idea, right? The sources really dive into both the potential benefits and the potential dangers, Imagine being able to enhance our cognitive abilities, our physical strength, even how long we live. It's tempting to see it as like the next step in human evolution.
You're also highlighting the other side of that coin, the ethical concerns, the potential for abuse, the whole question of what does it even mean to be human if we're constantly upgrading ourselves?
Exactly. The material doesn't shy away from those questions at all. It raises concerns about society becoming even more divided, a potential elite group of transhumans, and just the philosophical implications of messing with our very nature.
Okay, so we've got accelerating technology, societal upheaval, the future of work, spirituality, transhumanism. That's a lot to take in. Where do we even start to make sense of it all?
Well, one way is to connect all these individual points to that bigger picture, right? What's the overall narrative here? What are the main forces at play? It seems like you're really grappling with this core question. How do you find your place in a world that's being reshaped by these powerful forces?
And that's where that whole red pill perspective comes in, right?
Yeah.
It's about seeing the changes coming, understanding the potential dangers, and being prepared.
You got it. The material you shared suggests that this mindset is essential for navigating the singularity and making sure it benefits everyone, not just a select few. It's about being proactive, informed, and ready to adapt.
So it's a call to action. Don't just sit back and let the future happen to you. Be informed, be prepared, and be ready to shape the future you want. We've only scratched the surface of this material. We've also flagged important points about global politics, the role of big data, and the potential for both conflict and collaboration in a world driven by the singularity.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, let's take a moment for our listener to absorb all of this.
Welcome back. Before we pause, we were talking about those big picture implications of the singularity. And you'd highlighted some concerns about global politics and how power dynamics might play out in this new world.
Yeah, because it's not just about the tech itself, right? It's about how different groups, different countries are going to use that tech. I mean, it could be a tool for good, or it could be a tool for, control.
Exactly. The sources you've pulled together talk about the need for global cooperation, making sure the singularity benefits everyone, not just a few. But there's also this awareness that conflict could become even more likely, especially as tech gives certain groups more and more power.
And that ties back to the whole red-pilled idea, doesn't it? Like, not just blindly trusting those in power, but understanding how they might use these advancements to their own advantage. It's about being aware of the potential for manipulation.
That's definitely a key theme in all this material. It's like there's this sense that the singularity could make existing inequalities even worse. If we're not careful, those who are already powerful could become even more so, while others get left behind.
So if we see this potential problem, what can we do about it? What are some solutions that came up in the material that could help ensure a more equitable and just future?
Well, one solution that's offered is education. And not just technical skills, but also things like critical thinking, media literacy, being able to tell the difference between truth and propaganda. It's about empowering people to navigate this complex landscape and make decisions for themselves, informed decisions.
That's really what we're trying to do here, isn't it? Giving people the tools to think critically, to see things from multiple perspectives, especially as we move into a future where there's so much information out there. But figuring out what's true and what's not becomes even more crucial.
For sure. And the sources emphasize that it's not just about individual empowerment, it's about collective action too. Building communities, sharing what we know, and pushing for policies that create a more just and fair future for everybody.
You also pointed out the role of big data in all this. Can you unpack that a bit more? Why is that such a key factor in your mind?
Data is quickly becoming like the most valuable resource in the world. The material you sent explores how big data can make our lives better in so many ways. Things like personalized healthcare, more efficient energy systems. But there's also this warning about how it could be misused for control, for manipulation.
It's like that classic saying, power corrupts. And with big data, whoever controls the data, well, they've got a whole lot of power. So it's not just about technology getting smarter. It's about the ethics and intentions of the people who are controlling it.
Exactly. The sources really emphasize the importance of data privacy, making sure our personal information isn't being used against us. And there's a call for more transparency and accountability from those who are collecting and controlling all this data, both governments and corporations.
So it's not just about me opting out of cookies on a website, right?
Yeah.
It's about understanding this bigger picture of how data is shaping our lives, our choices, maybe even our thoughts, and demanding that this powerful tool be used in an ethical and responsible way.
Right. And the material you've gathered suggests the singularity is like this fork in the road. It could lead to a world where everything we do is tracked and monitored, a kind of surveillance state, or it could lead to a world where we're empowered, where we have more control over our data and our own destinies. The path we take really depends on the choices we make, both as individuals and as a society.
Let's shift gears a little and dive into one of the most captivating and maybe a little unsettling aspects of the singularity, humanism. Using technology to enhance our own ability. You've got tons of notes on this. And it's clear you're both fascinated and a bit apprehensive about the possibility. What's really grabbing your attention here?
The material you've shared paints this really vivid picture of a future where we could boost our cognitive abilities, our physical strength, even how long we live. Imagine a world where we can overcome disabilities, get rid of diseases, and unlock human potential in ways we can barely even imagine right now. It's a powerful vision, and it seems like you're really grappling with its implications.
I think anyone would be. On the one hand, it's super exciting to think about all the possibilities, but then you've got those ethical dilemmas. What about the people who can't afford these enhancements? Are we going to create a society with two tiers, the enhanced and the unenhanced? And what happens to our shared human experience if we're all constantly upgrading ourselves?
Those are some of the big questions your sources are wrestling with. They acknowledge that transhumanism could make existing inequalities worse, maybe even create new ones. And there's this real concern about the potential for abuse. Imagine governments or corporations using these technologies to control people, or individuals using them for, well, not so good purposes.
It's like a sci-fi movie come to life, all this promise of incredible advancements, but also the possibility that those advancements could be used for harm. This is where that red-pilled perspective becomes really important, right? Being aware of the potential dangers and thinking critically about the implications of these technologies before they become, everyday reality.
Absolutely. That's exactly what the sources are driving at. They suggest we need to be having these ethical conversations now, setting boundaries and making sure these technologies are used responsibly for the good of everyone. It's not about rejecting progress, but about guiding it in a direction that benefits all of humanity.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here. How fast technology is changing, the potential upheaval in society and the economy, the implications for masculinity and spirituality, and the potential upsides and downsides of transhumanism. But your research also explores how the singularity might impact specific areas of our lives, things like entertainment, healthcare, even space travel.
You're right. The singularity isn't just some abstract idea off in the future. It has the potential to change every aspect of our lives. And the stuff you shared looks at these specific areas in really fascinating detail. It offers these glimpses of a future that's both exciting and a little unsettling. So should we dive into some of those specifics?
Let's do it. Let's start with entertainment. You've highlighted how technology is already changing the way we experience movies, music, video games. We've got streaming services, virtual reality, augmented reality. It's all evolving at an incredible pace.
And the sources you've gathered suggest this is just the beginning. Imagine a future where you can actually step inside a movie or a video game, experiencing it with all your senses, or a world where AI creates personalized entertainment experiences just for you based on what you like. These are the kinds of possibilities that are being explored.
Sounds amazing. But you also flagged some concern. What are some potential downsides to this constant evolution of entertainment?
Well, one concern is that we might become more isolated, As we spend more and more time in these virtual worlds, are we going to lose touch with real-world interactions, with our relationships? The sources also raise questions about how technology is affecting our attention spans, our ability to focus, to think critically, even to empathize with other people. These are really important things to consider as entertainment becomes even more immersive and personal.
It's like there's always a trade-off, right? We get these new experiences and possibilities, but we might lose something valuable in the process. So it's about being aware of those trade-offs and being deliberate about how we use technology.
Exactly. The key, like the material emphasizes, is finding that balance, embracing the good stuff that comes with these advancements, but being aware of the potential risks and trying to minimize them. And being mindful of the choices we make as individuals and how those choices affect us and the people around us.
So let's move on to healthcare. This is an area where the singularity could have a truly massive impact. You highlighted personalized medicine, gene editing, even the possibility of living way longer. What are the possibilities that you find most intriguing?
The sources you've provided paint a picture of a future where we've eradicated diseases, overcome disabilities, and significantly extended human lifespan. It's this vision of healthcare that's not just about treating illnesses, but about enhancing human potential. It seems like you're especially drawn to the idea of personalized medicine, getting a treatment plan that's designed specifically for you based on your unique genetic code, or using nanobots to repair damage at the cellular level, reversing the effects of aging.
That sounds like something out of science fiction. But as you pointed out, this is all based on real science that's happening right now.
That's what makes it so exciting. The pace of change in healthcare is mind-blowing. And the singularity could bring about breakthroughs we can barely even imagine. But like you said, it's not just about living longer. It's about living better. A future where we're not only free from disease, but actually enhanced physically, mentally, emotionally.
There are those ethical and societal implications to think about, aren't there? Who gets access to these advancements? Do we end up with a healthcare system where the rich can basically buy immortality while everyone else is left behind? And what happens to our planet if we all start living much longer lives? Those are some pretty big questions.
You're touching on some of the most critical challenges that the material raises. It acknowledges that the singularity could make those inequalities that already exist even worse, especially when it comes to healthcare. And there are legitimate concerns about what happens to the environment if we've got a population that's living much longer. So it's not just about developing these amazing technologies, it's about making sure they're used responsibly and ethically. We need to have those tough conversations about access, affordability, and the long-term consequences of the choices we make.
Okay, one last area to explore before we wrap things up, space travel. You highlighted how the singularity could lead to some incredible breakthroughs that could make it possible for us to travel to other planets, maybe even other star systems. What gets you most excited about that?
The source material talks about things like advanced propulsion systems, spacecraft that can repair themselves, even the possibility of using artificial intelligence to navigate those vast distances between stars. Imagine a future where we're not just exploring our own little corner of the universe, but actually venturing out to distant galaxies. It's like this vision of humanity becoming a truly spacefaring civilization.
That's pretty mind-blowing to think about. But what about the practical side of things? I mean, space travel is incredibly expensive and dangerous. How do we make it more accessible and safer for people?
That's where the singularity comes in. The research you've shared suggests that advancements in technology could make space travel more affordable, safer, and even more comfortable for us. Imagine spacecraft that can actually repair themselves while they're in flight, or generate their own gravity to offset those negative effects of long-term space travel.
You also pointed out the potential for space colonization. If we can travel to other planets, why not set up permanent settlements there? Expand humanity's reach beyond Earth.
The material dives right into that idea, discussing both the benefits and the challenges of space colonization. It explores the possibility of these self-sustaining colonies on other planets, which could be like a backup plan for humanity in case something catastrophic happens to Earth.
It's like something straight out of science fiction. But it also brings up some really thought-provoking ethical and philosophical questions. Like, who gets to go to these colonies? Who governs them? And do we even have the right to claim other planets as our own, even if nobody's living there? What are your thoughts on all of that?
Those are exactly the kinds of questions we need to be asking as we start venturing further into space. The singularity could open up these incredible opportunities for us, but it also demands that we think carefully about our role in the universe, about the ethical implications of what we do. Do we have a right to colonize other planets? What are our responsibilities to any life we might encounter out there? Those are some profound questions that the sources really encourage us to grapple with.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the singularity.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? Exploring all these different aspects of this complex and, while rapidly approaching future.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
Yeah.
From the actual technologies driving this change to those bigger implications for society, the economy, even, like you said, what it means to be human.
And what's been so impressive is how you've engaged with all the material you sent us. You're clearly not just passively taking in information. You're really grappling with these ideas, trying to figure out what it all means for you.
I think a lot of people feel that way when they start exploring the singularity, don't they? There's this sense of awe and excitement about the possibilities, but also a healthy dose of anxiety about the unknown.
It makes sense, right? I mean, we're talking about a potential transformation of human experience that's unlike anything we've ever encountered. It's natural to feel a mix of emotions.
The thing you brought up in your notes is this tension between, like, optimism and anxiety about the future. On the one hand, there's this pull towards all those amazing advancements, but then there's also that fear of what we might lose along the way.
That tension is really at the core of a lot of the conversations happening around the singularity. It reminds us that technology is just a tool, right? And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It depends on the choices we make.
So how do we navigate this uncertain future? What guidance did you find helpful in the material you shared with us?
The sources you selected offer some good insight. One is just the importance of knowledge and understanding. The more we know about the singularity, the better prepared we are to deal with all the complexities and try to steer things in a positive direction.
It's like that saying, knowledge is power, right? But it's not just about having a bunch of information, is it? It's about understanding what's really going on, separating truth from hype, and developing those critical thinking skills we need to make good decisions.
Exactly. And that's where that red-pilled perspective you talked about comes in. It's about seeing past the illusions, questioning those mainstream narratives, and taking control of your own life. The sources suggest that kind of mindset is essential for not just surviving, but actually thriving in a world that's increasingly shaped by technology.
It's realizing that we're not just watching this all happen, right? We're active participants.
Yeah.
And the choices we make, both individually and as a society, are going to determine the future we create.
That's a really powerful idea, and it's something that comes up again and again in the material you share. The singularity isn't something that's just going to happen to us. It's a crossroads, and we're the ones at the wheel guiding humanity toward the future we want.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways you want to leave our listener with?
I think the most important takeaway is that the future is not set in stone. It's a blank canvas, and we have the power to create the world we want, both as individuals and as a society. The choices we make today, the actions we take, the conversations we have, they all have an impact.
And it's not about finding all the right answers or predicting the future perfectly right. It's about being aware, being informed, being engaged, and being willing to adapt and change as the world around us changes.
Absolutely. The singularity is a journey, not a destination. And it's a journey we're all on together. We need to support each other, learn from each other, and work together to create a future that works for everyone.
So, for our listener out there, we hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective on the singularity, seeing it not just as some technological event, but as a human one. It's a future that's full of amazing possibilities, but also potential danger. But ultimately, it's a future that we have the power to shape.
And if you're interested in exploring these ideas even further, the author of all these insightful sources has written a book that dives deeper into a lot of the themes we've discussed. You can find it on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
Until next time, keep diving, keep questioning, and keep shaping the future you want to see.